You are listening to the Xentrix interview special on FlirtFM 101.3.
Do you think Xentrix maybe happened a little too late? If you happened more earlier in the 80s?
Well, exactly. I think we needed to come along 5 years earlier or 5 years later, and things could have been very different for us. But we're not bitter about it. We were where we were. You know, I know I've said in the past, you know, the UK thrash scene didn't die because all the bands packed in playing. There was just no scene anymore, so the bands just fizzled out. It was as simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, you got to remember, people just stopped going to gigs. It was they just turned off to the music. It was at that time where we were playing gigs to like 20 people and stuff like that, you know, and that's why it was like, right, let's call it a day.
Yeah, we were trying harder and harder, and the audience was just getting smaller and smaller until there was just no point. It was a weird time. All the venues we used to play closed, and you know, everything just got a bit strange. After we kind of packed it in, I probably did 10 years of not really being into music at all. And then I rediscovered metal, and I'm just a bigger metal fan than I ever was. So it's great that metal's back. I think it'll always be around, but we were just, at the time in our career, which it was then, when we needed to be progressing and doing better and selling more and making money, it was just at the time when the whole scene was on its arse and we couldn't do anything.
How do you feel about bands re-recording and remixing past albums? Is it something that Xentrix might do in the future?
Do you want to answer
that?
Well,
no, yeah. Strangely enough, we did think about that. Talked to some people who said basically they thought it was a really bad idea and you should never do it, which possibly is the case. I don't know. Well, there's a few songs. I mean, there's some of the Kin stuff we'd like to do again, re-record a remix. Just because you could do it with like a now type of sound sonically, and because some of those songs we really like, but they just didn't happen at that time in the studio. We didn't particularly get the sounds we wanted. Well, you know, when you come out, you think you do at the time, and then you come out and listen to it, and it's like, oh no, it sounds rubbish. Why? You know, it sounded good in the studio. Yeah. So yeah, it'd be good to get that and, you know, get Andy involved, get Sneap involved, and, you know, because I think that'll probably happen if we do anything. We'll get him involved because he's like our go-to guy, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so you'll be familiar with the work of Mr. Sneap.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And we're lucky enough, well, the first tour we ever did was with Sabat, and we'd been good friends with Andy for many years. Yeah. So
you got a couple of dates with them, didn't you?
Our first tour, we did 3 weeks around the UK with them, didn't we?
First time we played in Dublin was with Sabat, was at McGonagall's.
Yeah, it was with McGonagall's, yeah.
89.
But yes, to go back to your question, I think we did say, wouldn't it be great to redo a load of songs, you know, and release them? But we were advised pretty much that it never sells. People always say it's not as good as the originals, so best not to bother.
You are listening to the Xentrix interview special on FlirtFM 101.3.
In light of the recent death of former Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, Shattered Existence and For Whose Advantage were both released at the end of Thatcher-era Britain. Did our politics and the conditions of the country at the time have an influence and affect the writing of those albums?
That's a very deep question.
That's just Britain.
That's just Britain.
That's just bloody Britain.
To be honest, for me, all I can say is no.
No.
I mean, we've never been very political. We do have opinions on various things, but we've never made a big deal of our opinions in songs. You know, the songs are just what the songs are. So really no, to be honest. There's no longer answer to that.
So you wouldn't consider Xentrix as a political band?
Oh, definitely not, no.
Yeah. But there is elements of that in For Whose Advantage?
Only perhaps because we've latched onto an idea that might work for a song, and it's not necessarily because we're trying to make a statement or anything like that. To be honest, we like playing guitars, and we were a very guitar-based band, and most of our lyrics, while we did spend a lot of time on them and try and make them sound great and everything, it was a necessary evil as part of the songs. We'd come up with all these great riffs and go, right, I better put some words to it now. It was a bit more secondary. And what we tend to do is find a few lines that worked in a few places in the songs and then build a song around it. So it's not really, right, we're going to write a deep song about this subject. The vocals and the lyrics would evolve with the song, and it'd kind of find a meaning as we went along. So we were definitely not a political band. We may have had things to say, like For Whose Advantage, for example.
Who's Advantage actually? It was inspired by it was. I was at the time quite a big comic reader. It was inspired by a comic story that I read. The comic was called Crisis Comic. It's years ago, and it was this whole sort of South American thing with the death squads and all that. And that's where I got this idea for this sort of double standard. And the guy on one side has got all this wealth, and the other side there's all this wasteland, you know. And that was kind of that's as far as it goes. We weren't trying to make any sort of big political statement, you know.
No, but to explain how songs evolved, as I recall, correct me if I'm wrong, Stan, we actually found this Latin thing that sounded pretty cool, and it translated to For Whose Advantage.
That's right.
And we were just kind of looking for ideas. And it was like, there's this Latin thing, that sounds pretty cool, doesn't it? And it means For Whose Advantage, and that just tied in with this song we just happened to be writing at the time. And the idea was built around that with Stan's idea from Crisis as well. So as you can see, it's kind of bits and pieces thrown in to make a song work, rather than sitting down going, right, we want to make this statement. That never really happened. What we wanted to do was play our guitars, and we had to have some words to go with it that were pretty cool.
For Whose Advantage is like you speak about a condition of the world that happens that you're not happy with. And, you know, it's something I wouldn't know about because I'd be into the band more than into the situation. And I would read up about it. I actually read up about, third world countries and stuff like that after listening to For Whose Advantage. So it's kind of funny that.
But that proves to us we did kind of do the right thing, going, hey, that'd make a good song. But we was no more deep than that for us.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it's. I think Ozzy said with the heavy music, you've got to have a heavy lyric. It can't be flowers and unicorns, can it? And I love you, baby, yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, it needs some sort of weight to it. So you kind of search around for subjects that you can sort of apply to, to the music. I mean, we weren't big on the sort of Satan thing, so it was like, well, let's go down this type of route, or let's talk about, like on the first album, we wrote about like some idiots that we didn't like, and with Back in the Real World, it was like, you're an idiot, just stop it, So it was more. We tried to make it a bit more real than Hail Satan.
Yeah,
I found it really difficult as well. Actually, when we first album came out, we had to do loads of interviews, and especially when we were in Europe, we would be asked about the meaning for every song in detail, and it was really difficult at first because
you didn't write all the lyrics.
I didn't write all the lyrics.
No.
Some of them bits we wrote bits and pieces and kind of amalgamated them together. And when people would ask me about the meaning for a song, there'd be a lot of because I'd never really thought about it before. Half of them I didn't really know.
Yeah.
If I'd had time to consider it, I could have given a good explanation of what it was about in the context of the song, but I didn't really care. It was the words that went with the song by that point. So we were on the spot a few times with that, explain the meaning behind this song. I was like, So, never big on that.
UK thrash legends Xentrix are back. Catch them on tour now.
Supported some major heavyweights over the years. Which gig was most memorable?
I think I can say without fear of contradiction, Hammersmith with Testament was amazing.
That was because it was at the end of the Sabbath tour, and we'd just done the dates with Sabbath, and then it was January, wasn't it?
Yes.
And so it would have been 1990, and we were on first band on, and we thought, nobody's going to be in for us. It's like 7:00. It's going to be empty. We're going to play into an empty room, and kind of went on, did the first two songs together. Sort of like you look up and everybody's cheering, and then they started singing along and stuff, and it was like, what the hell? This is brilliant.
It was incredible.
It was really good.
It was amazing even before that because all of Testament watched us sound check, which was fairly scary because Testament were my favourite band at the time, and we were sound checking. I looked over to the monitor desk and Chuck Billy was stood there, and I turned round and Stan was playing, obviously, and behind Stan was Alex Skolnick. It was like, oh my God, Testament are watching a sound check, and they watched us play from side stage as well. So that was mind-blowing for us before we did the gig, and then we thought, well, there's not going to be anybody in when we play, and the place was rammed. It was incredible. Testament watched us play and then spoke briefly to Chuck afterwards. Well, I'd say Chuck like I know him. He said a handful of words to me, which was he just came over and said, great show. and that was it. It was like, Chuck spoke to me, and incredible. So that, for me, was the single major event. I think as well, because it was so early in our career, we'd just kind of done the first album, done a few weeks with Sabat, then we found ourselves at Hammersmith with Testament, and it was just mind-blowing. That's what famous people did, not us.
Are you looking forward to the gig tonight?
Oh, definitely. Tonight's going to be...
I'm looking forward to the gig tonight, I can't wait.
We're ready for it as well. We've been practicing, rehearsing really hard, done a couple of warm-up gigs, little local things, just so we make sure we're really on the money. And we're going to go for it like mad tonight. I'm so excited, really quite giddy about the whole thing.
I think it's really cool that the first gig's in Dublin, because it is one of our fondest memories is playing McGonagall's, and some of the other ones. I mean, the Nancy Spain's one.
Yeah, cool,
that was great. It was some great gigs. I mean,
and you owe a friend of mine a pair of trainers.
Oh right.
Yeah.
Oh, was it? Yeah.
He lost his
right.
trainers
That's
in that gig.
So we got an early start tonight. I think we're on at 7. So I'm just hoping plenty of people make it out early to see us. But so looking forward to it. So looking forward to it.
I think it's a great lineup tonight, to be honest. I mean, I'm not blowing my own trumpet, but if you're into this type of music, it's
a lineup that makes sense, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great. It's definitely, you get your money's worth tonight, definitely.
Yeah, if you're a Thrash fan, this is the place to be tonight.
Yeah.
Hopefully be coming back to Ireland as a headlining act.
We're not opposed to it. I mean, we all the time now we're Facebook and all that kind of stuff. People are always saying, come here, come there, come. We can't just appear in places. We have to have opportunities to go there. But if the opportunities keep coming our way, and they are coming thick and fast at the moment, we'll be going everywhere, including back here, hopefully.
Any plans for near future slots or summer festivals?
Well, we're going to be playing Bloodstock, which is good. We're quite excited about that. So we're special guests on the second stage, I think on the Friday, which is amazing again. We've got a few gigs coming up. We're playing in Switzerland next weekend, and then we've got a festival in Croatia in June. So there's things happening, a few other gigs before Christmas as well. And we've got a load of festivals, European festivals for next year booked already, which is incredible that that's happening now, So we're really just looking to get these gigs done first and then see what happens. Because I think at the moment I would understand it if people were sceptical about whether we can still do it. These few gigs are our opportunity to kind of say, there you go, have a load of that, and then we'll see what happens.
Well, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure.
It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Mel, Chris and Stan. Cheers. Best of luck tonight. Can't wait.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Ta-da. Hi, this is Stan from Xentrix. You're listening to the Cranium Titanium Show on Flirt FM. Play it loud.